And I think the level of repression is growing. So if we want to talk about what the EU can learn from what's happening in Serbia, because there are so many things that I didn't mention, and hopefully Srđan and Katarina will mention the other actions that the students have had, is that an authoritarian regime that is based on, that's basing its relationship with the European Union and other international relations based on transactional relations. For example, supplying Ukraine with munitions, and in that respect, asking for the EU to sort of not follow what's going on in terms of democracy and human rights in Serbia. I think we can learn that this is not the way for Europe or any other democratic country to uphold its values, because Serbia is a small country, it's a fledgling democracy, but it has the right to a properly functioning democracy and rule of law, just like any other country. Is our higher education system and our general education system in danger? Yes, because since 2017, the ruling party has systematically been changing laws related to higher education, which are putting a stranglehold on universities and actually fully controlling them, either administratively or financially. Therefore, turning universities into schools where maybe some skills are taught, but critical thinking, independence of thought are being stifled. And in the long run, this is something that will cause grave damage and it will take generations to repair. And so I find it very commendable the way universities are in Serbia are fighting for democratic values and university autonomy. And also, I think we're seeing this wave of anti-intellectualism, of anti-knowledge, which is very favorable for the ruling party, because the ruling party would like to have very docile citizens that do not ask questions. And that ultimately we have a government not for the people, but actually a people for the government. That the government benefits from the people and the people see how they will manage. All in all, this is a struggle that is extremely important, I think, for how we view democracy in the future. And the students will not rest, they will not stop. And I hope that the academic community will have the strength and the perseverance to support the students, as will other professional groups in Serbia, because I think the will is there. Hopefully the stamina will be there. And I hope in time that there will be sufficient international support for what's going on in Serbia. And I see this meeting as a way of promoting support for Serbia, because we don't have here a political struggle. We have truly a struggle for values. And what have the students learned in these almost 6 months, more than 5 months of blockades and protests? They have seen that their demands, which have been very reasonable, have not been met. And therefore, the students have no other alternative, but they are going to have to politically articulate their demands, because if the system is not working, if the system cannot be fixed, that means the system has to be changed. And if the system has to be changed, other people will need to make that change. And I see a shift in what the students are doing. And I think this shift will be heard of and articulated in the weeks to come. So I hope I haven't bored you too much with things that you know. And for those that haven't heard, I hope they have found it interesting. And I'm, of course, available for any other details that you might be interested from the perspective of university administration. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much to Professor Popovic for that very insightful and comprehensive presentation. And now I would like to turn to our next panelist, Professor Srđan Verbic.
Good afternoon to all of you. Well, it looks to me like participating in those omnibus films where you have the same story, but you have to present it from different aspects, and it is very difficult. So I will try to exclude those parts that I intended to talk about related to university, and maybe to shift focus a little bit to maybe to what people think and feel about these protests, and what frustrates them, and what they believe that can happen later on. So my main motivation for this discussion is my personal frustration that whatever we do in Serbia, it is not attracting uh, uh, attention, appropriate attention on a global level. So even when our students drive, ride bicycles all the way to Strasbourg, it is not so visible, and I tried to check it myself to see those Google trends, and what are people Googling about Serbia, and uh, I was not surprised. I just was depressed with the results. So there was in last 100 days, we had only one day when people on global scale Googled more about student protests and protests in Serbia than about basket club Partizan. So only one day, and that was Sound Cannon Day. So that was pretty loud, and everyone paid attention. But actually, it is below some thresholds set by concerts in the neighborhood, some festivals, events. So whatever we do, it is not so obvious. Okay, I will try to tell my story to presentation, and I have prepared something, and I hope it will be illustrative enough. It is other way to see this story, and all my slides are actually tweets. So I want to find out what is there, what people retweet, what they like about the information. So I will start with this present date. That is how it was announced today. This our discussion, and all these slides have original tweet and translation in English. So this one is just announcement, and I will try to tell the same story as Ivanka, but from different point of view. So I will start before the collapse of Canopy in Novi Sad. So we had another unfortunate event that the entire family died in crash accident only 1 month before the fall collapse of Canopy, and that was armored car just crashed car with the entire family, and as you can imagine, no one was responsible for that. We just received a short notice from the army. And what is the most astonishing fact here is that I believe that most of us have forgotten about this. So these events come one after another, and we simply forget about them, and what is the constant there, and that is no one is accountable, and we don't see people who are arrested for that, who are responsible. um, we don't see any penalties for that. So this happened just a month, and we not only that no one is responsible, but we also don't see news about it. It is totally forgotten. And after the fall of Canopy, I think one very important event happened. So Serbian opposition made event. So they actually they were first who blocked some institution in Serbia. They needed like 3 weeks to set up their minds and to realize what they should do, and they blocked entrance to the court. And I think that was very important moment, so that they then demonstrated for the others what they could do. So we had a meeting of professors and students for the first time, exactly 3 weeks after the collapse of Canopy at Student Square in Belgrade. And it is very interesting that history is repeating there. So we had at the same place on the same day, we had start of students' protest in 1996, and those protests were quite long, and hundreds of thousands of people participated in one way or another, and we didn't reach our goals. So Faculty of Dramatic Art started with this. Sorry?
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. Are you sharing slides? Because we don't see your slides. If you are,
you don't see slides. Sorry,
no,
sorry.
So
okay,
I just want to check if you are, because we don't see them.
Okay.
Maybe just click twice if you see the share screen at the bottom of the Zoom, and then click twice on the slides.
Sorry, that
don't see them yet.
My fault. Okay. Just. I hope you do see slides
see
now.
Them. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So it was briefly just these 4 slides. So the first student slide protest was this one in front of Faculty of Dramatic Arts. But let's not talk about the protest itself. I understood that we should also discuss about values, about people who organize this, and there is also there is interesting tweet here. It is not from this year, but from 2022. About attitudes and values of Serbian youth, and you can see that some things there that looks like they are in collision. For instance, only 30% of young people are in favor of joining EU, but on the other side, 71% of them plan to go to live in EU. They don't want to be members of NATO, but on the other side, they wouldn't mind going to live or study in USA. So that is that strange mix of feelings and attitudes of Serbian youth. Well, what I would say is that people, these young people in Serbia are quite conservative today, and that is what I mentioned on Twitter like 4 years ago, and I think many people agreed with me. So that it is it happened never before that this young generation is much more conservative than their elders, and it was strange for us elders. So what are you doing? How can we leave this world to you who are turning back? So you're more conservative than we are today. Anyway, this protest grew stronger, and students had support from many different places in the world. And you probably recall these hundreds of different posters from different parts of the world, even from Antarctic. Students had support, and that was really nice thing to feel, to nice time to be alive, to see that people are thinking about what you do here, and they are sorry, this is my fingers are too long for this keyboard. Okay, so that was very nice, but actually no one knew what to do next. Okay, so we have sympathies, and people are talking about us, but mostly people from our diaspora, from all over the world. So something should happen next. What happened next was that government of Serbia felt, and a lot of people from other countries congratulated me immediately. Oh, well, you were so successful in your protests, and yeah, it took only 2 months, and government collapsed, and now you will have free elections. And my reaction was, well, no. In our country, that changing of the government is not something that that we can really count on. Okay, it is not even achievement. We cannot be proud because it's just a game. It is not something that we achieved. And I think most people were just. It was just another day. Nothing really happened. Regime stayed the same. What was real battle? Is that what happened in some small towns, in small communities, like this one in Doljevac? Only these 2 guys had enough courage to stand out and to support students on that day. So what we realized pretty soon is that we are approaching New Year, and we were talking about person of the year. So students deserve to be that person of the year, but well, we didn't solve anything yet. So my suggestion was think about the next person of the year, who should be prosecutor by profession. Then some support from other countries in the neighborhood started to arrive, and it was very nice feeling again. We started to be very proud of our students. So we complained about their behavior, so about watching their mobile phones all the time, but somehow, well, they engage their neurons, and somehow they reinvented democracy. They reinvented some basic principles, and also they took initiative. So that was almost, I would say, even more than almost. That was totally unexpected from this generation. And if you had the chance to anticipate it before, we would say, no way, this younger generation is totally unable to do something like participating in some demonstrations in adequate way. But what they did, they recognized it. Their mission is not to revolution, so they don't have ideologies. They don't follow any political parties. What they do is some kind of exorcism from their point of view. So they want to clean the society from corruption and everything. Then we received some support from media, world media, and some people like Varoufakis, Zizek, etc. But well, it was for one day only. So if you follow this media news, you will see that this frequency is not very high of such news. What really happened is can be, I would say, can be put in one sentence. That is what that is fired worker from that electro company, Goran Perisic, said, "Students awaken hope that there is hope." So that was very important. I think we were so depressed after the collapse of the canopy, and we didn't really believe that anyone would be held responsible for that. So we didn't expect much. We still don't know what will happen at the end, but students definitely awakened our hope. Also, the hope has been awakened in the neighborhood as well. So in the other countries, they are looking at what is going on in Serbia, hoping that something similar can happen in their backyard as well. And something that was also very difficult to anticipate, that students and citizens and elder people would walk for hundreds of kilometers to gather at one place and to make the biggest gathering in history of Serbia. So I will use this opportunity to run this 10 seconds video clip. I hope that you can hear this as well. So that was culmination of the entire protest. We have never seen anything like this, not only in Belgrade, but in Serbia. But reactions from other countries was disappointing. So every single opportunity that European officials had to react somehow, they used wrong words, something that is annoying, not citizens in Serbia, especially students. So they didn't recognize anything that students did. But on the other hand, they had a lot of nice words for the government and regime in Serbia. And that is actually a situation that we have for centuries already. So Professor Nebojša Romčić said something like this: the dictator is against us, criminals are against us, East and West are against us, and we are with justice. It is our natural historical state. Then students started to ride bicycles to Strasbourg, and we were also very proud of them. But after all these events that was very nice for us, some European officials made us to feel depressed again. So like President Macron and a lot of them. But in the region, at the same time, happens a lot of nice things that we have waited for so many years. I think that one of the most important events was that meeting in Novi Pazar. Like it was only 2 weeks ago. It looks to me like a long time ago, but only 2 weeks ago. So it is kind of catharsis that we were waiting for such a long time. We know that Novi Pazar and students and citizens there were neglected systematically for long time from political point of view, and we didn't have excursions in high school that did go to Novi Pazar. The only place where people from Novi Pazar and Belgrade met was from football matches, and it was not particularly nice event. And at some point, we were together. So I think this message is very, very important. This transparent here. So you thought we couldn't be together. So people from Novi Pazar, Muslims, and people from the other parts of Serbia were together, and it was very, very nice. So we were proud again of ourselves. But what the regime is doing is to mix cards and to talk one thing to the west and the other to the east, and to play game again with us. And definitely, I think that whatever they do, it appears to be a sure sign that it is neither colored revolution and neither nor something that is financed from Russia. So this was one of those rare opportunities that we can discuss about what is going on in Serbia, and I'm really pleased and grateful to your department at Harvard to give us such opportunity. Thank you for this, for your attention.
Thank you, Professor, for that wonderful and colorful presentation. I don't know whether we live up to the period of the cartoon that you just showed. Many of us suspect that Harvard can learn more from the Serbian students than vice versa. Nonetheless, thank you. And finally, our dear colleague, last but not least in any way, Katarina Besirevic has the floor.
Thank you, Danilo, and thank you to Professor Ivanka Popovic and Srđan Verbic for what they said before me. And it's truly an honor and a pleasure to have the opportunity to be here and speak in front of you. So I would try and say some things that were not said before me, and it's challenging, but please bear with me. And I will try to be as short as possible in order to leave as much time for your questions. So when I got the invitation to talk here, and when I asked Danilo about where should I start with the protest, we kind of agreed that somehow how would I characterize these protests would be one of the questions that would be posed here and that should be answered. And so what I would actually start is by saying that I see these protests at their core as a fight for democracy, for the rule of law, and freedom of expression. And they're centered around the demand for the proper functioning of the state institutions, particularly the public prosecutor's office. So in this sense, I think it's very important for me to highlight all the students' demands that were articulated in December when after the fall of the collapse of the canopy, after the violence in front of the Faculty of Dramatic Arts, and when the blockades actually began. The students came out with 4 demands. Demanding the publication of the complete documentation regarding the reconstruction of the railway station in Novi Sad. The second one being the prosecution of the perpetrators. And this demand is being expanded up until today because the list of the people who were perpetrators in different occasions is actually getting larger and larger. So it's not just the incident at the Faculty of Dramatic Arts, but it's also the incidents that followed. Also, there is the dismissal of criminal charges against the arrested students and professor during the protests. So the students and professors were let go, but it does not indicate exactly or guarantee that they will not be criminally charged or convicted. So this is the third demand. And the fourth one is the increased budget for higher education by 20%. So all of these demands are actually fundamentally directed towards the institutions doing their jobs and actually the betterment of the higher educational system. After March 15, after the attack of this, let's say, unidentified object, the students added 2 more demands. So one is related to identifying actually the unidentified technology that was used during the 15-minute silence on March 15th in Belgrade. And for the competent institutions to actually react and to define on what this weapon was. The 6th demand is actually also is directed to the events that occurred in the night between March 15 and March 16, but in Skopje, not in Skopje, but in Macedonia, I'm so sorry, when 61 people tragically died in an accident in a club when a fire broke out. And after that, some of them were hospitalized in Belgrade. And the president of the Republic of Serbia and some of the reporters went into the room of intensive care where only medical staff is allowed to be. So the students demanded responsibility and resignations. So those are, I think it's very, very important that, and I'm sorry if this was too long, but for me to emphasize all this, because this is something that the student fight is based on and that the protests are based on, because the blockades at the faculties and the university will not stop until all of these demands are actually met. These protests are fundamentally, from the very beginning, student-led. And at their core are the students. But since then, they have developed. And since the very beginning, the students had the full support of their professors, of us researchers, and of school teachers, high school students, war veterans and motorcycle groups who are actually helping the students when they organize these protests to protect them. There are also sectors who were on strike on occasion, lawyers, pharmacists, actors, actresses, etc. So all of these people are actually, in a way, helping the students. But what's most important is that over the time, a large number of citizens have joined and have embraced these student demands as their own. So the protest began, as we said, with the quiet symbolic act with this 15-minute silence each Friday. Since March 21st, when the 16th victim died of the collapse of the canopy, this silence is now held for 16 minutes. So I guess that people, what I often hear, and I'm a historian, so bear with me, please, here, but what I often hear is, in this case, is that history is repeating itself. What I would say is that in this concrete example and this momentum that we're living in, is that we're experiencing and seeing a continuity of a process that began 30 years ago. And I think what we're witnessing now is actually this need for deep systematic change. And where do we also see this continuity that's going on, is that many individuals who were actually active in the political life during the 1990s are in charge and very much politically active today as well. And also, on the other side, a lot of people who protested during the 90s are yet again on the street today, 28 or 30 years later. What I think is quite important to mention here is that these protests are a sort of a stand against what I would call anti-intellectualism, something that's also a deep-rooted problem that can be traced back to the 1990s. So when Professor Ivanka Popovic talked about the attacks on the university, etc., this is all something that has been happening for quite a while, and that was happening 3 decades ago. So we see today we're facing this populist government in this illiberal democratic system that actively targets intellectuals and experts and students, portraying them as part of an elite, but in this negative connotation of that word, and or worse, so foreign agents. And we hear many narratives about students being foreign agents and this being a colored revolution directed against Serbian nationalism. This narrative obviously is not unique to Serbia, so we have to put everything that's going on today into a wider context, because we see similar rhetorics happening in other countries as well, in Europe, in the United States. But its effect is particularly damaging in a society that's already had these deep divisions. However, in contrast to this propaganda, that we're actually witnessing this powerful grassroots movement that started with the students and from the students, and who have over the past 5 months truly inspired this hope, and who have mobilized a lot of people, and who have woken up a lot of people from their apathy and apoliticalness, if I can say it that way. And they have awakened the sense of civic pride and show the people that they are capable and that they should fight for their most basic democratic rights, if I'm allowed to say it that way. And so going back to the fact that what's happening today is called the colored revolution, and that it's directed against Serbian nationalism. Interestingly enough, students have somehow managed, not somehow, but with all of their actions, managed to bring these national symbols back to the people. So over the years, there was this sense that the flag, the national anthem, the national holiday that's celebrated on February 15th is taken away from the people, and that the regime sort of occupied all of these symbols, state symbols. But as these protests started going on, we can see more and more Serbian flags on the protests, people singing the national anthem. And what's, I think, most important for me is this February 15th, which is a national holiday in Serbia, which commemorates the first Serbian uprising and the adoption of the Serbia's first constitution. This year, this was celebrated with a large protest in a city in central Serbia, Kragujevac, where the constitution was adopted, and there was at least 100,000 people. So it was a large protest, and these people came and they celebrated this national holiday together, which kind of contradicts everything the regime tells us. So what I wanted to kind of emphasize here is that these protests have become, and all of these symbols have become a sense of solidarity, unity, and kind of a shared belief for a better future, which I think is a core, and it's most important for the students, because they're fighting for this so that they can stay in Serbia and so they can continue their lives, their studies in a system that they want actually to be better for them and for all of us at the end of the day. When we go back to the student demands, one thing is actually quite clear to me, and when I try to see what's going on, is that this government is not the one that will meet these demands. So if we take the first demand that requires the release of all documents that are related to the reconstruction of the railway station, meeting this demand could actually expose evidence of corruption and potentially implicate numerous government officials, and it could actually unravel a series of other questionable dealings that have been going on in the past. So this is something that I think is quite obvious from this perspective. But if we look at the possible political solutions and how this can be addressed politically, I saw that one of the questions in the chat was about the political opposition, and I wanted to address that in a sense that the problem with the political opposition at this point is that it is seen as quite weak. And the major reason for that is actually the fact that over the last 13 years, the regime has worked actively on discrediting them. And from the beginning, the students have been very, very careful with their positioning and relationship with the opposition and everything. They made a conscious effort and decision to distance themselves from any political parties, which does not mean that their actions are not political per se, but they don't actually have any kind of connections with the opposition. They made this decision because the public trust in the opposition party was quite low, and the students have been determined, and I think are very successful in showing that their movement is truly independent and it's a grassroots movement, and it's free from any kind of political influences, either regime or opposition. There's also this, so putting this again into a wider perspective, the desire for independence also kind of in the student movement also grows beyond political parties and embraces the NGOs as well, because as every authoritarian regime, the NGOs in Serbia are also portrayed as suspicious and illegitimate. So distancing themselves from political and non-governmental actors, the students have earned credibility among the broader public. And most of them most of the public actually trusts this dominant narrative that all politicians are the same. A view that is not actually true, but is something that is very much present in the public. It's interesting when we talk about these political solutions and political articulation that a lot of people have suggested that the students should be the one leading the country and that we need a student party. This is an enormous burden to place on a movement that has never intended to become a political party. But all eyes currently are on the students and on their next steps and their directives. And for me, this reflects a broader desire among citizens to find a new leader, even a collective one. So how the students kind of responded to all of this and to this desire for them to be politically active and to help to become a political entity, they responded by encouraging citizens to take initiative themselves. So they've been calling people to organize themselves locally, forming these informal local assemblies called zborovi within their communities, which is actually a constitutionally guaranteed right, and to begin building change from bottom up. So this isn't an ultimate solution for everything, but it is a starting point, and it turned out to be a good starting point and a way to motivate civic engagement until something or the universities, the professors and the students together come up with an actual political solution. There's one example of how effective this can be. So over the last, this is I think the 11th day of the blockade of the radio television Serbia, because of their non-objective broadcasting about the student protests. And during this blockade, some of these local communities came together and they support the students. So they bring them cooked food, they bring them drinks, they bring them coffee, and they actually just show up in crowds and make large crowd in front of the radio television Serbia. And this is one of the ways in which these local initiatives can actually function. They've happened, I think over the past week, there has been over 400 protests in Serbia and over 100 these zborovi around Serbia as well. So this is something is happening, and there's a lot of change going on for now. The academic community has been very active in discussing potential political solutions, and we will see what the results will be, because these discussions are still ongoing. What I would kind of like to address at this very end, and what we did not talk about, and we kind of mentioned it a bit, is this relationship with the international community, concretely the European Union, because in April, just I think 5 days ago, the students who cycled to Strasbourg came back. So they cycled more than 1,400 kilometers for 12 days. And there were 80 Serbian students. They were hoping to raise awareness about the situation in Serbia and address EU institutions directly. Today, this morning, I don't know how many, but the students started a rally run towards Brussels, and they wanted to address the EU Parliament and to again raise awareness about what's going on in Serbia. On the other hand, while the students are fighting for what I see are democratic values and the values that the European Union promotes, the EU does not seem to support this fight enough. So this was one of the motivations why the students are going there. On the other hand, I also see this as a way, as something that actually collides with the student demands, in a sense that they're asking for the institutions to do their job. So if the European Union keeps its eyes shut in front of everything that's been going on and all of the corruption that's been going on, then the students are actually not asking to be rescued. That's something that they underlined in one of the interviews that I watched. But they're asking merely, they're sending a reminder that Europe should actually fight and help promote these democratic values itself. So finally, if what I see is kind of can be a future and an outcome of all of this is that I'm a historian and I don't like to predict things, honestly, but everything depends on the outcome of the process. And if the students' demands are met, the students will return to their studies. As many of them have said in the interviews, and as I have pointed out already, this will give them motivation to stay in this country and to work on making this system much better. And I know that I think that they're aware. After March 15, a lot of people kind of, it seemed that they lost patience and that they thought that everything would change overnight. But I have a feeling that I think that this is this liberal democratic system is something that needs a long and gradual change, and a process that it requires a process that is long and gradual. And so while some may feel impatient, the students understand the complexity of what lies ahead of them. And they are fully aware of the fact, I believe, that even if their current demands are met and when they are fulfilled, this does not mean that the work here is done. And this is something that we will have to be working on for now, for a long time, I guess. But I think that everything that's been going on in Serbia today can be served as an example to students and people around the world on how a civic engagement can actually help change things. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Katarina, and thank you to all our panelists for 3 outstanding presentations. I'm going to now recognize our colleague, Olivera Miladinovic, who is a postdoctoral fellow at Harvard, and she will convey some of the questions from our excellent audience. And if a question is directed to a particular person, Olivera, you can say so. And if it's a general question, we will maybe ask each of the panelists to briefly respond.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Danilo. And thank you all for being here, and to all of our panelists for talking today. So I would start with the questions. We had a lot of questions for different panelists, but I would start with questions for Katarina. So there was a lot of questions about how actually the students are organizing, how many people are coming to plenum, because I don't know how to translate that. What are the limitations of that kind of organizations, and what is the structure and governance of the students? So how does it actually work? And one more question for Katarina is that how can foreign institutions provide hand-on help without the regime framing it again as the students being paid by foreigners? So we can start with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. So I will try and explain how the plenary sessions and plenums actually function, although I must say that I myself, although I am a PhD candidate, I'm employed at the faculty as a researcher, and I mostly take part in all of these protests and everything that's going on as a support of the students, so not as part of the plenums. But all of the students from the faculty are invited, and they can actually take part and participate in the plenums. And they make decisions based on direct democracy. So they have points that they have to go through each. I think most of the plenary sessions at most faculties happen each day or every other day. It depends on the faculty. So they make decisions by voting, yes, no, or basically yes or no. And what comes next is that every faculty has delegates from the plenum. They're voted each time different ones, and each time they have also different moderators for the plenums. And these delegates go to this high council representative. I'm not sure how to translate it in English. I'm so sorry, but they have this student body where all the delegates from different faculties come, and then they discuss the issue, and that's how the decisions are made. Within each faculty, there are also working groups, because not everyone can deal with every segment of the protest. You have to deal with media, you have to deal with logistics, security, talking with the professors, the dean, etc. So strategy, there are different working groups, and some of them differ from faculty to faculty. And basically, this is how they function. If there are any additional questions about this, I'm happy to answer them. About the support, I will send a link into the chat that will help. Actually, that contains a lot of information about, in general, the student protest and how the students can be helped. But for now, this is not just the students, it's the entire academic community, because as Professor Ivanka Popovic pointed out, the professors do not get their salaries, and I mean, they do, but it's very much decreased, like by 75%. So I think that even solidarity of any kind at this point would be very much helpful to the entire university and academic community in Serbia. Here's the link, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a few questions, and they're mostly for Professor Ivanka, and they are mostly about actually the how can students politically argue this, and what is the role of opposition parties? And do we see any options where the students and the existing opposition actually works together, or if there is a space for students to actually become a new how to say that, political force in our country? So those are most of the questions for Professor Ivanka Popovic.
Well, it's not an easy question to answer, but I think I need to step back a bit and explain that, you know, for years in Serbia, not only in Serbia, you have this very strong anti-political stance that, you know, all politicians are the same. It's not worth engaging in politics. And especially in Serbia, the regime has been very consistent with this type of propaganda for years. And I think subconsciously many people have adopted it, and that this has actually pacificated the population. We have to keep in mind, if students are in their early 20s and Mr. Vucic's party is in power for 13 years, since their childhood, they don't know of any other political model functioning in Serbia. So this is very important. And they have been really trying to keep their protest pure so that it's not tainted in any way or compromised by anything that could be brought into question. And that's why also I see in the chat there's some talk also about ideological aspects. I think it's very important to explain that what we're talking about here is pre-ideological. We're talking about just simply setting up rule of law and institutions that are more or less independent, that we can expect, if not justice for all, but justice for the majority. And we are not seeing that at the moment. We are seeing a captured state where nothing is functioning for the citizens and everything is functioning for the government and its cronies. So I think this is very important. And the protests have been a learning curve for the students, which is a wonderful exercise in direct democracy in many ways. But for some citizens, of course, it's very frustrating because life goes on. And if people are being, not given their salary or in any other way being, strangled to move out of the movement, they don't really have time for the students to go through their learning curve. But the students learn quickly. And I think this realization that after almost more than 5 months of protests, that the demands will not be met, that some other approach has to be taken. And if we're just moving along the lines, it's a very big demand. If we're moving along the lines of establishing rule of law and independent institutions, then there shouldn't be, except for any extreme right or left-wing parties, any differences in what the students want and what opposition parties want and activists want. So there is room for a united front. It's, I think, the only way out of this situation, because it means a massive unified front to change this government, because this government is preventing the implementation of rule of law. And this is the key aspect we're talking about. We can talk about the EU, we can talk about Kosovo, we can talk about many other things later, but we need a transition into a functioning democracy with rule of law, and then opposition parties with their programs and ideologies can then, offer their bidding to the population, and citizens, including students, will vote in regular elections. One thing we didn't touch upon is that elections in Serbia have been rigged, and they're rigged in such a way that the government can really control the elections. And if we are moving toward elections where there will be no changes in the conditions, where this voting software is, I could say, very easily manipulated by the government, this is an uphill struggle to achieve this. So I think the students realize now who their allies are. It's a little bit difficult for them because they also have to take a step back, because for months they've been saying they want nothing to do with opposition parties and activists or anyone who in any ways has some kind of political articulation. But now I think they will be very supportive of citizens group, grassroots movements, and political parties that go into the election process, and they will support them. How will they support them? By being observers or controllers in the election to try to stop any type of fiddling or tampering with elections. But the key point now is the students may see that elections are a way out, but of course, Mr. Vučić is the one who will call elections. And if he doesn't want to call elections, there won't be any. So I again insist that at this moment, with the degree to which anyone protesting is in danger in terms of losing their livelihood, of losing their job, of course, the school years already is very debatable how it will end. But we're seeing people who are now directly threatened. The only way to move forward and to show to the government that there is no other option is that we need, again, massive demonstrations, massive protests, massive gatherings, peaceful, but very persistent, insisting on these changes. Because without this, of course, if there's a weakening of this public display of dissatisfaction, Mr. Vučić is a very experienced politician, and he will take advantage of this because he will perceive it as a weakness. And now is simply not the time to get tired or to be disappointed or in any other way to sort of drop out of the protest. It's not time for the students to drop out. It's not time for the academic community or for any other professional or citizens groups supporting the students. We will either move on and succeed, or if we stop, I think we will be faced by vengeance. And Mr. Vučić is pretty good at vengeance. He's had many decades to hone his trade. So I think we need to be very, very cautious at this point in time and to be really ready to overcome our differences for the better, for the larger and greater good. And that's what I see the students doing. And as an example, on June 8th, there will be 2 local elections in 2 municipalities, Kosjerić and Zaječar. It doesn't really matter what the names of the towns are. These 2 elections, local elections, will be test cases whether the students supporting local politicians, activists, will be able to, together to overcome this machine, this system that Mr. Vučić has set up, and overcome, and also whether citizens will come out in sufficient numbers to vote, and whether this process will bring a positive result. If it does, it gives great hope for the rest of the country. If it doesn't, it shows that the degree of manipulation that the ruling party has over the election system is such that elections will not provide the answer. And then we must again push forward for a transitional government that can prepare conditions for fair elections. So which will be the way to go depends on events sort of in the field. And I would say that the months to come will bring answers. It will bring us hope, but it also brings frustration, because it's just simply not a time to sit back and relax. On the contrary, I think it's something, it's a challenge that we need to meet, because I'm really not looking forward to the consequences if we don't succeed. Because Mr. Vučić, in his daily speeches, and now we are seeing hours and hours of him on state-influenced TV, he's already talking about revenge, about what he will do to the universities, what he will do to the students, what he will do to any opposition. And as we know, Mr. Vučić's track record from the 90s, his radical heritage, he is someone who's a very strong proponent of violence. And I'm not sure that he has ever truly changed his approach. There was a mimicry of democracy, but now he's gone back to his basic settings. And we must avoid this type of vengeance and violence at all costs. And therefore, there is no going back. And the students can and will play a key role. But I agree with Katarina, the students cannot bear the brunt of this struggle. And it is very disturbing that so many people are willing to sit back and watch the events on TV and, to pat you on the back or the students in the back and say, oh, you're doing a wonderful job, please continue, instead of seeing it as a common struggle for a better future. And therefore, it makes you wonder also about the comments in the chat, whether Serbs are preferential to an autocratic government. But I suppose this is one of those historical moments where you have to live up to the moment.
Thank you so much. We have a few questions about the media, and they are actually towards all the panelists and to you, Danilo, as well. So basically the questions about media is, and I'm just going to read it out loud. So the media abroad do not report enough or at all about the protests in Serbia for many reasons, but mainly what people are saying here is that the propaganda is huge in the Western media as it is back home. So should we be surprised or naive about this? And additionally, what we can link to the media question, I would say, is that could we make any similarities between the situation in Serbia and the government crackdown on the universities in the US? So I would ask all the panelists if they can very shortly answer to this, because we have a few more questions to go through. So we can start with Srđan and then go to Professor Popovic and then Katarina for this question. And Danilo, if you want to jump in, that would be also great.
Oh, very difficult question. So what we see in Serbia, that we have very polarized media and target groups. So we don't have recent studies. So no one did some studies, I believe, during this protest. But we have like 2 years old studies, and we see the political preferences that are based on your selection of TV station that you follow. So everything is clear. So we have like two totally different groups. But during this protest, we have also so many people that are somewhere in between, because they started to listen not only media but people around them, to pay attention to social media as well. So I think this protest also opens up some other ways of communication, and I really wonder what that silent majority thinks about this. So we have very loud students, and you can hear them on the streets, in some media, on YouTube, everywhere. But there are so many people who are still silent. They don't know what to think. So I believe that this trend is good for the changes. So we have much greater level of solidarity. We understand each other. We are not so hostile to different for different opinions, etc. But we still don't know what so many people think, and there is no media somewhere in between who would have discussions probably like this, discussions where you have some third opinion, something that is what bothers people in small communities. Why don't we have trade unions participating in this protest? What foreign investors think about what is going on? So at this moment, it looks like if we have students and university on one side and the regime on the other, but there are so many stakeholders that are that they don't have their media outlets. So we still don't know what is going on, and I think it is very important task for all of us just to not just to share, but to explain what is going on, to participate, to listen to some concrete questions of those people that are not so visible. So I think that this media war, if I can say it like this, in Serbia is almost the same as it used to be like 6 months ago. So nothing changed. We have two different types of media, but we have discovered some other channels of communication, which is good, but we still need time and a lot of effort to talk, to explain. And I think that one of those initiatives initiated by students, a student in every village, I think it is what they call it. It is very extremely important. So just travel there and speak to people. Maybe opposition should do it all the time. So it is their job, in the description of their job. But if they don't do it adequately. Maybe students can help.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very important, again, to go back to, I said, the Serbian Progressive Party has not been idle. And I would say in the last 7 or 8 years, we have seen a really deteriorating atmosphere for dialogue. We're seeing an increasing culture of violence, and it started with violence in narrative, that not allowing for tolerant discussions, for people presenting different opinions, and then, in a tolerant way, acknowledging that they differ, because it's either you think in the same way. If you don't, you're making enemies. And this intolerance in the verbal situation is moving on sort of to a culture of violence, that we are now even tolerating physical violence between people who have different opinions. And this is a tremendous backslide that we have witnessed in the past 8 to 10 years. And it's really leaving a trace, because we are not capable of talking to each other anymore. And that's why the institution of plenum and zbor that Katarina mentioned, this has been so very important. And this is something that does not agree with the ruling party. So I think this massive need to discuss is something that is very healing and that we need to work on. As far as the international community is concerned, I think it's very clear that this lack of a visible partner that can be spoken to, in terms of there's no student leader, no, let's call it in a general terms, opposition, a leader is there, or leaders that can be spoken to and discussed with. I think this disturbs many, at least the European Union, I think, finds this very frustrating, because they don't know what their alternative to Mr. Vučić is. For them, it's at the moment Mr. Vučić, and on the other side, they don't see an acceptable partner that they could perhaps, enter into an interaction. This is quite, I think, for them, a situation that not only the European Union, but also for others, that I think they don't know how to deal with it. And they would also mean that they don't think that things have moved along insufficiently, because eventually they're expecting that there will be someone who is a partner for discussion. And finally, I think the whole geopolitical situation, where you have, the extent of tragedy and conflict that we're seeing in the Ukraine, what we're seeing in Gaza, what we're seeing, the whole turbulence, financial world, economic terms, what's going on in the United States. Serbia is just, a fly on the wall compared to these events that are happening and that are really making great changes. And therefore, I would say that most people in the world, when they read the paper, they are going for these headlines, and I'm not sure that they're really interested in what's going on in Serbia. And I personally think that we should put in an effort to try to explain into the international community what's going on in Serbia. But so far, there hasn't really been any relevant support, and I'm not sure that we will get it. The only way that Serbia will succeed in what it's doing is if it manages to make the change on its own. Any support is welcome. I think this is great, but we have to be the ones who make the change in our country, because if we don't do it ourselves, it will not be an irreversible change, and we will slide back into old habits. And therefore, I think that we shouldn't dwell too much on the fact of why the international community isn't dealing so much with Serbia, but we should try to improve the messages we are sending from Serbia. And yes, I think we need to show that there is a united front. And if we have a united front who is standing against the current regime, I think also there will be a team of people that will be available to speak to members of the international community. So I think that's the direction that we need to move in, and focus on what we ourselves can do to make this change happen. And I believe that all the people present at this meeting and those that will watch this recording in the media we all individually can do a lot. And I think this is the purpose of this meeting, that we need to pass on relevant information and to deal within our micro communities to try to change opinion about what's going on in Serbia. Thank you.
And Katarina, if you have anything to add on this, or we can go to our final question for all panelists.
I think it's fine that we can go to the final question.
Yeah, so basically the final question, I think, is the best way to conclude our great discussion today, is basically for all the panelists, because we have like 15 minutes left, is how do you define success of these 5 months of protest and the blockade, and where do you see the blockades of the university and the position of students going from this moment on? We can now start in reverse. So first Katarina, then Professor Popovic, then Srđan.
Okay, so this is something that I actually tried to answer during my presentation, but I will try and go back and maybe make myself more clear. So I think that everything that has happened up until this point is a huge success per se. So I think that all the changes and all the movements in the society that have been occurred over the last 5 months have been a huge success. And that when I say that, I mean from the side of the protests and the students, etc. And putting aside all the violence and everything that we've seen on the other hand, so these repressions. What is going to happen from this point on? I don't know. What I can say is that I cannot see where a situation where we came up until this point, we're blocking the radio television Serbia for more than 240 hours now. I cannot see us going back from this point to the very beginning. As Professor Ivan Popovic said, the repression, I guess, and I can imagine it getting worse. But then I cannot see the students and the citizens and the academic community and the teachers and everyone involved in all of this not reacting to these larger oppressions. On the other hand, I do believe, and this is something that I get from talking to students and something that I get from being around them all the time, is that they are not willing and that they're quite persistent. They're not willing to give up until their demands are met. So I guess that we have to find a way, and I guess it's up to the academic community for now to find a way to find a political solution to have these demands met, not just because we want to deal with the current situation and we want to continue working and to continue going to class, but because the society desperately needs to change, and we need systematic changes in a sense that democracy should be implemented, rule of law should be implemented, and I think that these demands are a way and to open the path for the betterment of the entire society.
So I think I mentioned it in the beginning, the students have accomplished practically a miracle because, as I said, they have given people in Serbia hope, and they have freed them of their fear to speak out publicly. So these are two major achievements that have changed the face of Serbia, and especially in local communities where everyone knows each other so well. And I think this has made an irreversible change. And in that respect, I see it as very, very important. I think in that respect, things can never go back to the way they were. But there is a long way ahead still for us to move forward. The students have also, I think, inspired citizens and empowered them, and citizens have come to the realization that they do have the power in their hands. So active citizenship is not a concept that has really had a strong hold in Serbia, a strong footing. It's, I will tell a very bad joke, but in Serbia, the saying goes, I will vote for you when you win the election, if you understand my drift. So people sort of don't want to gamble. They want to go for a sure thing, even if it might not be good, but it's something, it's an uncertainty, or let's say a bad situation that they know how to deal with. But a new situation could be better, might be not. So in this respect, I think shaking things up is what the students have accomplished. And I'm sure that together we can make this change happen. And that's why I'm very optimistic. I would not like to think about the repression, about the consequences, because we also cannot be prisoners of our fear. We cannot be hostages of what might be in the negative, because then we can spend all of our time worrying what we'll do in that situation. I think we should focus on our efforts to those actions that will not allow for repression to increase, but that we move forward for the very simple but important goals that we have set out. Because let's face it, democracy is in danger everywhere. Rights are not a given. And this is something that maybe we all forget. We expect that certain rights that we have achieved will be there always. It's a given, and it's not a given. And we've seen it over the past 10 years, how things have been sliding. I think people in other countries have also seen various aspects of what's expected in society has also changed. So this is a constant struggle. Democracy might not be the optimal form of human organization, but at the moment it seems to be the one that functions in the best way for the majority of people. And with this contribution of the students, that maybe people now see that there are options available to them, and that Serbia could be different, that we should try to really nurture this hope, nurture this newfound freedom, and encourage citizens and the population to go all the way with the students, and that together we make a qualitative change in our country. And as I said, I think we should rely on our own resources, on our own competences to make this happen. And any allies that we make along the way, I think that is more than welcome. But I think the key point is that Serbia has to change from the inside, and that we have to help it along in this process. Thank you.
You?
I would like to expand this idea, Professor Popovic, that at this moment we don't have predetermined destination. So we are not going to any particular place. We realize that we have a problem, and we are discussing all possible solutions. So what is the major improvement is that we are taking responsibility for what is going on. We don't expect that anyone else from other countries, for institutions to do something for us at this moment. So we are taking responsibility, and that is very important thing. The other very important thing is that, and I will repeat what Katarina and Ivanka already said, that people are free from their fears, and finally they have courage to make a statement, to ask for something, to complain about something. So it is very important. And I think these two things are irreversible. So whatever happens in the future, those people who ultimately had the chance and courage to speak publicly and to say what they think, it won't change. So we have more active citizens. So they are determined to solve things. So that is very important. However, what will happen next? How can we change institutions? How can we change government? Well, we don't see examples of good practice around us. So even if they existed like 2 or 5 years ago, in so many countries they disappeared. So if we have to draw our destination to where are we heading to, well, we are not quite sure. But I think it is less important that our determination to do something about it. And if we are free to speak about it, that is, I think, at this moment, more than enough. So that is legacy of this protest. So finally, we achieved that point of no return. People will speak, people will do, maybe in small steps. Maybe fixing this system will last for 10 years, maybe. I don't know, but I'm not. I'm sure that there is no way to go back. So we might be disappointed with some particular solutions, but we are advancing anyway. So we are taking our destiny in our own hands, and we don't expect from anyone anything at this moment. And I think that is the most important thing.
Thank you all. And now I will give the floor to Danilo for our closing remarks.
May I just say one thing?
Yes, please.
There was a comment in the chat about how it was expected that the panel would maybe provide solutions. How can we get out of this situation?
Yes.
I think it's very important to say that no solution is possible unless the students endorse it. So the students are very much in control of the narrative, and many people with more experience than the students would possibly move in other directions. But at the moment, that's not relevant. At this moment, the students and their dynamic is what will define the course of events in Serbia. And I think it's very important also to understand that, because we get questions all the time. Why aren't professors influencing the students more? Aren't there people telling them what to do? And all kinds of suggestions of this sort. There might be people who are trying, and there are many people who are talking to the students. But as the students say, it will be over when we say it's over. And I think it's very important that we accept that this is how things are moving along. We might not like it, but that's the reality of the situation. And that's why we have to hope that the students will find the optimal way to get us moving in the right direction. Sorry for the interruption, but I think it was important to make this very clear.
And that's a perfect, actually, note to end on. Thank you once again from all the organizers to all the panelists and to the audience. Thank you for your excellent commentary. Thank you for keeping it civil. Thank you for it's like that joke about two Serbs stranded on a desert island. they open up 5 publications and 12 political parties. And that's the way it should be. So we love the pluralism, including the disagreements. There are some excellent discussions that we hope we will continue from the chat in other forums. And these important conversations have been opened up very well. And let's continue this dialogue. Thank you all very much. And goodbye to everybody.
Thank you.